first article that I'm going to talk about is regarding the U.S. shutdown, or we can say U.S. federal shutdown. Fine, and the 19th federal government shutdown in U.S. history went into force. Before 2018 shutdown, the earlier shutdown of U.S. Government was in 2013. Now, the article is saying, first of all, let's see that what is this federal shutdown and all. See, federal shutdown is when a government and the members of the legislature, they are not on the consensus to pass a bill, basically, or which involves certain sort of funding in the government sector scheme. I mean, for example, there is a government operation, I mean government policy, which needs government funding, and on that particular funding, the consent is not made between the both parties. In this case, the Republican it is the Donald Trump's party. It's the ruling party, and Democrats, they're opposing a particular bill, which is basically, or act, which is basically taken by the Trump's government. Now, what is this? The thing is that because, see, there is a DACA, I should say. It means deferred action for childhood arrivals. This was a scheme, a policy which was undertaken by Obama government, and under which the minor children, fine, minor children of foreign immigrants, they were allowed. I'm talking only about the minor children. They were allowed to reside in the country for an extended period of 2 years, if in the case they are, they illegally entered the boundary of USA, or they were illegally residing in USA. But it's only for the minor ones, and they were even given exemptions regarding work and all. They could do that their work within that two renewable and the 2 year period which was extended for them, that was renewable also. So what happens, that Donald Trump, it repealed this particular policy in September 2017. And see, when the policy is repealed, obviously there will be no funding on that, fine. And because of which the Democrats, under which this policy was, it came, they are basically opposing this particular move. But Republicans under Trump, they refuse to compromise on a hardline approach on immigration policy. But they are not compromising, they are saying no, we will continue with this, fine. So this is the matter, and because of which the budget of USA, it's still hanging in between, and only with this interim appropriation bills, the budget process is going on, and because of which this entire federal shutdown in USA came. So this is the main context, and now the writer is saying that because of this shutdown and all, this shutdown could have affected a lot many, not only the government sectors. I mean, government sectors and the bureaucracy will not be affected if suppose there will be shutdown, but people who are dependent on the security measures by the government, people who somehow dependent on the government funding, and many of the departments within the government also, they're not getting the enough budgets to pay the salary. So because of this, entire kind of administration, kind of economy would have affected if this shutdown would not have been resolved. Now the thing is, they're saying that this particular kind of shutdown, it would have affected both the parties. It would have affected or it would have influenced the supporters of both the parties. For example, the supporters of Republicans, they will be like that Trump government is not able to smoothly run the government, and these kind of shutdowns are happening and all, while the Democrat supporters, they would think that they are not able to continue with the policy, and to let the means they are not able to pressurize enough the government to continue with the policy, especially the immigrants ones, fine. So there will be election issue and all, so both the parties supporters, they would have got influenced because of this. Now they're saying that too much is at stake for not only the nearly 11.3 million undocumented workers, because this deferred action, it was only for the undocumented workers, but also for 1.5 million temporary foreign workers as well, and among them 5 lakh to 7 lakh were H1 visa holders. The majority of them are from India. So definitely it's a matter of concern for India, as well as the immigration policies and the Trump stand on immigration is continuously changing. So let's see what happens. Now, next in this is this the color of inequity. Actually, the context is basically that the government recently announced that citizens whose passports carry the stamp immigration check required. Fine. See, immigrants are those who basically leave their country for some sort of opportunities outside the country. Those are immigrants. Okay. Now, in a nutshell, if suppose I have to say, I'll say that this government has basically decided that there will be two kinds of passports. One will be dark blue color. Fine, this dark blue color for those who don't require any immigration check, means for those who suppose leave the country, for example, NRIs, doctors, or this business associates and all, who don't require any sort of immigration check. Fine, they'll be having dark blue passports. And the other category will be orange passports. It will be for those who need immigration check. Now, this immigration check required passport are for those people who have not passed their matriculation examination, or who are not income taxpayers. Fine. So see, you can see that how a kind of class is created within the passport itself. Those who pay taxes, who are well educated, they are having dark blue color passports, and there, because there is no need to check their immigration requirements. But those who are not well educated and who don't pay any sort of tax, they need certain sort of immigration, and and so their passport color is also changed. Now, what happens earlier the passport's color was same, but for those who require immigration check, in the last page of their passports, certain information was written, and it was made clear that okay, the immigration check is done, now they can go. But now what happens, there was certain there was a clause in these passports where one has to tell the name of a spouse or father. So it was very difficult for single parents and single mothers to write these names. So so they requested and they appeal they plea they send a plea to the Ministry of External Affairs that these kind of things are creating problem for them. So ministry decided that they will be no longer printing in the name of spouse, legal guardian on the last page of passports. Now what happens, although it's good for the women, it's good for those sections for single parents who don't require any sort of immigration check, but as I told earlier, now their information cannot be written on the last page. Fine, their passport's color will be changed. Now what happens, this is creating, I already told, this is creating a class within a passport. Fine. And government could have find out certain innovative solutions led by technology to sort out this issue, to differentiate between these two passports. Fine. But the thing is, the writer is saying by failing to use technology led solutions to identify ECR passport holders quickly, issuing orange passports only to poor and marginalized migrant workers, because who are uneducated, mostly these poor and marginalized migrant workers, and they don't pay any tax. And by distinguish between passports on the basis of color, it's also an evidence of the failure of the state to provide education and income opportunities to all. In means, if someone is having a orange passport, it will be a clear cut indication to people from other country, if they have knowledge about this thing, that this person is not educated, this person is uneducated, and this person do not pay tax, and these are low class people. So this basically creates a kind of inequity in this entire spectrum of people. So this was the essence of this article. And like, the article is saying, but a preamble in the constitution, it says to secure all of its citizens equality of status and opportunity. But this kind of separation of passports on the basis of color, it stigmatize a set of citizens for their poverty. Fine. So government needs to look into this, and government needs to rectify it. This was the basic essence of article. Next is basically that Hindi should be made an official language of India or not. The perilous march of Hindustan, how this movement going towards a Hindustan is, how it is risky and how it is dangerous. The writer is basically, it's the criticism that why Hindi should not be made an official language, and it is somewhat politically motivated article also, because the writer is saying that although Karnataka CM, I guess Siddarmaya, I am sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, Karnataka CM and and the different parties, they are saying that there should be no three language formula and all, but the writer is saying that this three language formula and the debate of Hindi being an official language started only with the Congress. Fine. But we'll not look into that, what Congress said, what BJP said. We just look at the main points. The thing is that we are now discussing that Hindi should be made official language at the United Nations. Fine. And as I told that Karnataka CM, he termed this three language policy at non-reasonable. Now see, what's this three language policy is? According this policy, it came in 1968. Fine. And it with the official language resolution. See, in 1967, with the Official Language Act amendment, it was made that along with Hindi, English will be the official language for time indefinite. Fine. But so in 1968, this three language formula came and it said that in non-Hindi speaking states, means in South India, means there will be three language formula like Hindi, English, and any sort of regional language can be promoted in education. And in Hindi speaking state, there will be Hindi, English, and one of the southern Indian language should be promoted in education. So this was the three language formula to be promoted in education and all. Now, the writer is saying this policy took a whole different shape, because this three language formula was on one hand, the southern states, they were trying to implement it, but the non this trying but the Hindi speaking states, what they tried, they only tried to promote Hindi language, and they even tried to delegitimize English. Okay, so this is the thing, that non-Hindi state, Hindi state, they were doing the mischief with this three language formula. And the writer is saying even the move to make Hindi as official language at the United Nations, it was a recommendation that of the Committee of Parliament on Official Language, which was made under Congress in 2011. Fine. So it's not a new move that BJP is trying to do. The writer is somehow trying to say this. Now, this committee made certain recommendations, and in its ninth report, the panel made 117 recommendations, and President approved more than 95%. But there were two recommendations which President didn't approve, and the first one is that to add a column on Hindi fluency in the annual confidential report of all employees and officers. That means there will be a column where the checking will be done, that whether these employees and officers, they can speak fluently in this Hindi or not. Now the thing is that this will obviously target central government employees in non-Hindi states, because definitely the government employees in Hindi states will be speaking Hindi fluently. So the first, this recommendation was not approved. The second was that is to have only Hindi or one's mother tongue as the language to be used in parliament. Fine. But the thing is that if this was the case, so there will be, the parliament would have become the market of several languages. So this recommendation was also not accepted. Fine. Now, uh, now there are certain recommendations. What of those recommendations which center accepted? Fine. It says that students in colleges and universities in non-Hindi speaking states, mostly in South India, will henceforth have the option of taking exams and interviews in Hindi. Fine. They can give the exams and interview even in non-Hindi speaking states. They can give the interviews in Hindi. And it asks that government advertisements in Hindi newspapers should be of bigger size and at starting pages, while in English newspapers they should be relatively of small size. Fine. And it mandates the purchase of more Hindi newspapers and magazines in all central government offices. We can clearly see that how Hindi is being tried to promote. Okay. Now, caught it in between two. The reality is this, according to the writer, that two factors are relevant to our language policy. One, see, it's a universal truth that English is a global language. English is a global language, and certain sort of fluency is required for mobility as well as to access global knowledge, because even if you want to learn something on YouTube, then mostly the videos they will be in English. Fine. And English is a kind of connecting factor, means we can globally connect ourselves. We can, within the country also, if suppose there is a person who speak Hindi but doesn't know Malayalam, but he can very well see the English video with the captions, if there are captions in English. So the thing is that English is a global language. Second thing is that many of the non-Hindi speaking states are having languages which are way older than Hindi, and they feel pride in their culture and heritage and in their language. Fine. So like any effort to impose Hindi on such states and on such people definitely will be will be a setback to the government and can have drastic effects. So, and the writer is saying that these states lack both the desire. These states even don't even have the desire and the need to learn. Fine. They don't even have the desire and need to learn. Next is that even the writer is mentioning one of the interview of Raj Thackeray, that all Hindus cannot be Hindi. All Hindus do not speak Hindi, and India is a mosaic of cultures, languages, and traditions. Fine. So definitely we cannot impose Hindi on anyone. So, and also non-Hindi states definitely are unlikely to accept the imposition of Hindi, even if it comes in a friendly garb with a smile. Even if we try to somehow make Hindi compulsory under certain sort of garb, then also it's not possible that non-Hindi states they will accept this imposition. So the thing is that India needs certain sort of deliberations on its language policy, and obviously any sort of impulsive deliberation on language policy cannot be taken. Fine. The centrality of English cannot be altogether avoided because it acts as a link language, as I told with the example of YouTube. So definitely India needs to look more towards it, that whether it should be made official or not. But let me make it very clear, this article is entire criticism of Hindi being an official language, but in answer we have to give both pros and cons. Thank you.